Thanks for joining my first episode of Mandolin's Kitchen here at Pretty Grim Designs. If you're looking to make an impression with a delicious take on a holiday classic, this pie should hit the spot. Let's start with the crust. We're going to use an entire bag of ginger snaps. This is a 10-ounce bag. We also need 5 tablespoons of butter. If you look on a butter stick, they are already marked off for you, which makes it easy to measure. We want to turn these into a fairly fine powder. Next, transfer them into a bowl. We will put 1.5 cups back into the food processor. We also add the butter that we cut up. And like every single time I try to put this stupid lid on backwards, I don't know what my problem is. You're going to want to mix these until they're really well combined and they form kind of a crumbly texture. Now we're going to add maple syrup. I really prefer to use real maple syrup as opposed to maple flavored syrup. There is a big difference in flavor. I'm going to put in 4 tablespoons, mixing between each 2 tablespoons. After it is mixed, it will be fairly sticky and wet. Transfer it into a 12-inch springform pan. I almost always put my springform pans inside of another round pan because they have a tendency to leak. Now we just sort of spread it around a little bit. Don't worry about totally covering the bottom yet. We'll take the leftover cookies we didn't use and put them back in the food processor to make a very fine powder. We'll sprinkle this a little bit at a time on top of the cookie dough crust we're making. We'll use that to keep it from sticking to our hands as we press the dough out to fill the entire bottom of the pan. We will place it in a 350-degree oven for 5 minutes to get toasty. In the middle of a center rack is the best place. To start the filling, I'm going to be using this Libby 100% pure pumpkin. I put 2 cups of this in my mixing bowl. Then a 1/2 cup of creamy peanut butter, and 3/4 of a cup of light brown sugar, firmly packed. I just use the bag to pack it down like this because it seems to be easier and cleaner, but you know, that's just my method. Now I'll start mixing it on a fairly low speed at first. As you can see, I'm already wearing pie filling all over my sweater. Now we're going to add 4 large eggs, one at a time, mixing until each one is well incorporated. I know it's not best practice to crack these eggs right on the side of my bowl. You should probably not do that. You know, do as I say, not as I do kind of thing. Now we're going to add 1 cup of Irish whiskey. As you will see here, I had just barely enough left in the bottle. I will give some recipe alternatives for those who don't like alcohol below in the comments. Two teaspoons of vanilla, 2 teaspoons ginger juice. I prefer ginger juice or fresh ginger over the powdered stuff. Half teaspoon of ground cloves, half teaspoon of ground allspice, half teaspoon of ground nutmeg. I put some of my grains of paradise into a grinder, and I'm going to use a half a teaspoon of those as well. And a half teaspoon of masala. For cinnamon, we're going to put 2 tablespoons. I really like the cinnamon. And about a half teaspoon of salt. Now we're just going to mix this up thoroughly. When it's almost done, I'm going to scrape down the sides and the bottom just to make sure there are no parts that didn't get mixed in well. Then one more quick mix. Pour it on top of your ginger snap pie crust. I'm also going to add 3 cups of water to the pan surrounding my springform pan. You should cover your springform pan in foil before you put the water in, not be a dingus like I did and put the water in first. This will keep the water from seeping in underneath the pie crust. We're going to put the pie in the oven at 425 degrees for 20 minutes. Again, center rack in the middle. After 20 minutes, we're going to bring the temperature down to 350 and we're going to let it cook for about another 50 minutes. In the meantime, we'll start the whipped cream. I'm using a quart of heavy whipping cream. A half teaspoon of vanilla. Honestly, you could use any flavor additive here or none at all if you prefer. I don't like my whipped cream to be super sweet, so I'm only going to be adding 3 tablespoons of confectioner's sugar to this. Now we start whipping it, on high speed for quite a while. I will let this go and fast forward just so you guys can see the magic happen. When it starts to form stiff peaks, we are done and we can turn off the mixer. It should look pretty much like this. Then we just transfer it to a bowl and cover it to set in the fridge until we are ready. This pie has a dulce de leche topping, which is really easy to make. Simply pour a can of sweetened condensed milk into a heavy nonstick pot over medium-high heat. I'm just going to eyeball my measurements here, but I'm going to add about a teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice, already mixed. I'm also adding a tablespoon of whiskey. This is totally optional though. Now we stir and stir and stir. The point is, you stir pretty much the entire time this is on the heat. If you don't, you could burn your caramel sauce and you don't want that. Around 10 or 15 minutes, you'll start to notice that it's really thickening up and starting to turn a darker brown. At this point, you want to just keep stirring it like you have been and watch for it to be the color of brown that you like. I usually stop at a fairly light brown. You can see the consistency here as I'm stirring it. When I take this off the heat, I will pour it directly on top of the pie and spread it around like this. Sorry, we lost the footage of the actual spreading part. This is a delicious pie, and it's a really unique pie too. I really hope you guys enjoy it. It's perfect for all of the upcoming holiday feasts you'll be having. Please make sure you like and subscribe. I'll see you guys this weekend with my amazing turkey recipe. Woo!